first things first, before you can get into the short-term rental industry, you first have to understand the rules of the sandbox in which you want to play in. Okay, so step one is you just want to hop onto Google. You want to do a little bit of background research and understand what are the local laws and rules and ordinances and bylaws in your area so that you can understand what it's going to take in order for you to set up your own shop and get your business up and running. Okay. Once you get the green light on that, and once you understand what that looks like, then you want to start going online and start looking at what properties are available in your area. Okay?
So right now, what Michael's looking at is an opportunity to do rental arbitrage. So going out there, looking for a place to rent or lease for about a year, could be 2 years, long-term, and then changing that over onto the short-term rental platform. So flipping it, essentially, getting it set up, and then you're making money off of nightly rents from guests coming in, and you're capturing that difference. So if something like this house, 4-bed, 2-bath house here is $1,300, like the very first one here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are making $4,000, you're going to have $4,000 minus, $1,300 plus some utilities. Like you're going to be making between $2,000-$3,000 a month off of something like that. That's rental arbitrage. That's the difference. That's the first model that we're talking about.
So
That's
you're basically getting the landlord's permission to sublet the property, and you're able to keep the margin between what your nightly rates are through short-term renting it and hosting the property and what you pay the landlord for the long-term rental price.
Correct. And the deal that you're making with them is extremely ethical because you're actually solving a lot of problems that landlords have by dealing with long-term tenants. So first off, you're making the arrangement incredibly passive for them because they don't have to worry about, finding new tenants all the time. You're going to be the last tenant they ever have to worry about. You're going to keep their property in incredible condition because you're going to be cleaning it after every single guest, and you're going to be taking care of all the minor maintenance. So landlord gets paid on time, property gets looked after, and the best benefit is you're not a pain in the ass to work with, right? So it's kind of win-win-win for the landlord in terms of what they're looking for and helps them accomplish their goals. Okay. Now, obviously here we got Facebook Marketplace. That's one avenue you can go to. Another one that we particularly like, just for some different functionalities that it has, we like to use a website like hotpads.com. And one of the reasons why we like it is you can actually go down and filter for rent by owner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in our particular business model, it is definitely recommended, and it's a lot easier if you can target owner managed listings right off the bat. Depending on the area, though, you might have to be dealing with management companies. There's a little bit more finessing that's involved if you're going down that path. The pitch isn't really all that different. It's just really more in how you're positioning it to that person in order to get them in touch with the owner.
Yeah, so going on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, HotPads, like just being able to actually talk to the owner and have those discussions with them. That's where we just started out, even in our own business, to get the first, I think it was 5 or 6 listings that we had with just rental arbitrage. So going out there, signing a lease agreement, setting it up with furniture, and then getting it online, start taking guests.
Now, to clarify with that, there's obviously a higher level, a higher upfront cost to the business owner, because in this, I'm presumably spending a first month, last month security deposit, just like a traditional lease. I'm probably purchasing the furnishings and decor to get it guest ready for the short-term rental side of it. So I imagine that it wouldn't be unrealistic to expect a $10,000 to $20,000 outlay on any given property. Obviously a far cry from coming up with a 20% down payment if I were to try and acquire my own short-term rental. So given the fact that I can oftentimes rely on alternative sources of that, meaning debt weapons we teach about here on the channel, whether it be a home equity line of credit, an unsecured business line of credit, an unsecured personal line of credit, maybe even in some cases, low to 0% introductory credit cards to make some of the purchases for the furnishings, or even low to 0% introductory promotions through furniture companies and so forth. I would guess that you can probably still do a lot of it out of pocket, but I'm still going to have to come to the table with that seed capital, regardless of where it comes from. True?
Absolutely true. And I mean, when we talk to new students in our training, we give all the various options that exist. So you can either fund it with, cash reserves or any, liquidity that you have on hand, or you might have to tap into some, debt weapons, as you say, as just different alternative funding sources to get it going. Now, in our case, That's how we started our business. We actually started our entire company off a $20,000 line of credit because, full disclosure, we didn't really have a lot of money when we first got this started.
Yeah.
So,
and that was to get about 5 or 6 rental arbitrage deals. So we, that was our debt weapon that we used off the beginning. And then we just reinvested the cash flow from there. We haven't had to outlay any more of our own funds to build up our business from then.
Yeah. So the reason why we started that way, to be totally honest with you, Matt, is that we honestly just didn't know a better way to get into the industry. Now we're going to talk about, another model that you can pursue, the partnership model, which can literally take your financial investment into acquiring new units down to zero. And we'll explain more on how that works a little bit later on in the video. But just to kind of keep folks on track here. So again, we want to start doing some homework. We want to start finding, prospective listings that are in your area, get some familiarity, understand what properties are actually renting for. So when you're doing this, it's really important to stay organized. Okay. You want to keep track of which websites you're targeting these on, what address, beds, baths, are they furnished, what's the rent, all this basic information here and this is something we give as a resource inside of our training. Now, if you want to speed up the research process, you can use a tool. Once you understand what properties rent for on the long-term market, you want to get a gauge of what the profit potential is in the short-term market. Because again, if we're going to arbitrage, you're going to be selling nights at a nightly rate in order to offset the cost you're paying on a monthly basis. Okay, so a couple ways you can do that. If you want to use a tool like AirDNA, it will scrape data from other comparable short-term rental listings. You can hop on, you can use a tool like the Rentalizer, just simply plug in the property's address, number of beds and baths. It'll give you a rough idea in terms of average nightly rate, average occupancy. If you want to circumvent this even faster, you can even buy a subscription, look at the top properties in your area, and see if you can find properties that are similar so that you can understand, you can just kind of go to the front of the line and just kind of shortcut that entire process. If you're on a tight budget and you don't want to go ahead and purchase all these different softwares, rather than relying on a tool like this, you could even just simply go on the platform itself, Airbnb, and just start looking at other comparable listings of homes in and around that area to get an idea of what other people are charging and how booked up they are based on what their calendars look like, right? So you can look for the next month, the next 60 days, 90 days, and just get a general overall idea of what the future looks like if you were to get into this type of business and use that kind of model. Okay. After you do your homework, this is where you want to start getting on the phone. You want to start sending out contacts to prospective landlords, and you want to try to start getting meetings in person if possible to essentially pitch them on the benefits of working with you rather than going with what they know and renting to a long-term tenant. Okay. Once you secure the deal, and we show people how to do this, quite easily inside the BNB Bootcamp, then you got to get busy. You got to start hustling. You got to start assembling, furnishings. You got to start putting your team together because you don't want to have to be the one that does all of this yourself. So we definitely encourage folks to hop on websites like TaskRabbit. You want to try to find local handymen, local movers, people that can help you get the place set up so you're not having to do all the grunt work and all the heavy lifting on your own. Okay,
so you have to have a handyman for sure, but also cleaners. So you have the cleaners ready to go because once your listing is live, you have to be able to be prepared with handyman, cleaners, start taking guests right away so the turnovers happen really quick. So majority of our students, we try and get them to have a place up and running within 30 days. So our program right now is a 4-month program. Within 30 days, we want a place up and running, generating income and getting going. So we have to be prepared with all these elements on the back end to make sure we take guests right away. And it happens quick. You get a listing online, it usually goes live within 24 hours and then bookings can start coming in really quick. So that's why it's important to be prepared on all these different areas and team members of your business.
And it's really important because we want to show people how to build an actual business where it's something that once it's up and running, once it's taking income, once you have the right team members, processes, and systems in place, it's something that you can genuinely walk away from and it can continue to work for you rather than you just simply trading hours for dollars.